Welcome to the Sports Complex on a Wednesday afternoon. I'm your host, Patrick Davis. Coming up on the show today, we're going to get into some college football talk. We got some more realignment news and realignment notes and people reacting to realignment coming up. Sark, we'll get to a little bit more audio, talk a little bit more about some UT football. The Big Fat Poll of the Day and our answers and results from the Big Fat Poll of the Day yesterday. We will also be talking about the biggest news, because it wasn't a big news day. The biggest news that came out today in sports, which is basically that Hard Knocks is out. And you can see the first Hard Knocks. We will talk about it, and I'll talk about why I have not seen it and may never see it. But we'll talk about that as well. We will get into some NFL notes from around the league, a little Cowboys, a little Texans, Astros and Rangers. Of course, the Astros with a epic comeback win last night. Was very much fun to watch. USA, the men's team, some people are already criticizing them. After one win, they are already being criticized. So we'll talk into that. Last call, all that coming up on the show today on the Sports Complex. If you're tuning in and if you're worried about the Rangers score, if you want a spoiler, I will give you the spoiler. I'm about to tell you what happened in the Rangers game. It is already done. So I give you the time there. The Rangers game is over, and they have dropped the first game, the first game since the trade deadline. They have dropped their first game. They have lost to the Oakland A's 2-0 today. The Angels last night actually won a game, so we now do not have those two streaks going on anymore in the AL West. The Rangers lose today. The Astros play a little bit later tonight after that big win last night from Kyle Tucker. I'm here today, which would let you know that I did not win the lottery last night. I'll be honest with you, I have not checked my ticket, so I could still be a millionaire. Technically, I could still be a millionaire. But I'm not a billionaire. I didn't win that one. I don't know how many of you bought tickets for it. I buy tickets for a lottery kind of weird. I don't check them right away. I usually give myself a week of it, because this is my theory on the lottery. Because I understand the odds of winning. It's like I'm not really expecting when I buy a lottery ticket. I'm like, there's my ticket out. There, whoa, don't worry about work no more. I bought me a ticket. I'm not worried about that. And I don't buy like $20 worth. I figure if I'm going to win, I'm going to win. So I buy one ticket, and I don't check it for a week. And it is my $2 that I throw away for hope. And for a week, I can have hope that things will turn out better and that, oh, no. And then now I'll be living on the beach and having a great life. And me and Lou will just be enjoying margaritas at sunset every night, and that's the hope I get to have for several days. But I know when the lottery gets as big as it was, then I get to basically the news will tell you half of your hope is dead, which I think the news does plenty. So I know I did not win it all. I do. There is a great bit. This is somewhat of how I feel about the lottery, of why I don't invest too much into it, why it is a $2 investment every once in a while to buy a little bit of hope. The comedian Kyle Kinane had a great bit about the lottery.
I don't understand why the people that play lottery aren't more afraid of lightning. Like, if you believe in those odds, shouldn't you? I got $20 on the pick 5. Is that a storm? Ooh.
Yeah, he makes perfect sense with this, and so that is why I did not invest more time into my theories of buying $20 lotteries, buying 20 lottery tickets and hoping that all works out. I don't do that. But somebody who did, who we're finding out more and more, people who basically just believed in hope, believed things would be okay, believed that they would be able to figure it out, and no, don't worry about it, is the teams left in the Pac-12. The 4 teams left in the Pac-12. And, we get the news a day or two ago that Stanford and Cal are talking to the ACC, and that the ACC is mulling adding a East Coast or West Coast addition to the ACC, to the Atlantic Coast, adding some Pacific Coast to their conference. And the question would be, do you just bring in Stanford and Cal? Or since you're bringing them in, do you add in Washington State and Oregon State? Or do you say, you know what, we're a basketball conference. We like San Diego State more. we like some other California schools, and we're going to try and get some other schools in that area. And maybe we won't even take in Washington State and Oregon State. Washington State President Kirk Schultz spoke and wrote a letter, spoke out in an interview, and he has made some remarks for the first time since this all went down. And his remarks show why people at Washington State are not exactly thrilled that he is in charge of running the organization. They've been having problems. They've been having issues with finances anyway. They've had trouble keeping the schools afloat, the schools' athletic programs afloat. They've discussed ideas of basically charging the students more money so that the athletics can have more money. That's one of the plans that's been floated out there. But he had the interview. Schultz came out, and some of the keys of this interview is Schultz came out and basically said they were hoping that they're going to get on the phone call, and this is when Colorado had left, but no one else had left yet. And they said, okay, well, hopefully we're going to stabilize everything. And you know what? We got this Apple TV deal that, Layoff Golf is proposing this Apple TV deal. We're going to put this out. Things are going to go. We're going to finalize the deal. We are going to be good. We're just going to be working out particulars is what he thinks is happening in this meeting. And he goes, we just need to hope that Oregon and Washington are on board because those right now are two of our bigger schools. We need Oregon and Washington to be on. And they start the phone call, and Oregon and Washington say, hey, guys, we don't want to be here the whole meeting because we've got important things to go do instead of talking to you losers. So we're going to tell you we're finishing our deal with the Big Ten right now. So they're on hold. We're going to call them. We're going to go back to them, and we're going to the Big Ten. Y'all figure out the Pac-12. That happens. Now Arizona State, and Utah they're cool. They say, all right, we got the Big 12 offer. We're out. And this is where things start to get when you see what Washington State is doing. And you see why some of these Pac-12 schools are getting left in the dirt. And you see why some of these schools are not being able to progress, and they keep blaming other people, and other schools are. We see that Schultz says as soon as this comes through, he goes to his athletic director and goes, we've got to roll our sleeves up and get to work. And you're like, now you got to get to work? Now? Don't you think it's a little bit late? Don't you think you should have already been going to work? Don't you think you should have already had multiple deals on the table? You've seen what's happening. You've known since Texas and OU went behind the Big 12's back and Bowlesby's back. You've known that people are doing this. Then you saw USC and UCLA. They went behind your back. So hey, man, everyone's already talking to everybody else. Our phones, if our phones aren't ringing, we need to start calling people and at least have conversations. We're fully aware. Phil Knight has told us that as Oregon's main booster, he's calling the Big Ten. He's called the Big 12. He's called the SEC. He's telling us that. So we know they're talking to other conferences. We know everybody is talking, and we are not. And we're waiting until we're the last one standing. And now we're going to put it together. It's like you're going to prom and you go, oh, I think we're all going to go stag. Everybody said we're going to go stag. And then you get up and then someone goes, oh, no, I'm not going stag. I'm going with this girl. And the next person comes up and he goes, oh, I'm not going stag. I'm going with this girl. And you realize that all the girls that you may have liked are already gone now because you kept waiting because you trusted that your friends were going to put bros before hoes. You thought that was a real thing. It doesn't exist. And people are not going to put your financial well-being before theirs. It's not how the world works. And this is where Schultz starts to lose me in a full sense. Is his statement. Here's a quote from Kirk Schultz, the president from Washington State. College athletics is at its worst with this realignment stuff. Everyone is truly looking out for themselves. What it also does is change behavior, and people stop being honest with each other. Did he just describe all of business in America all of the time? This seems like 95% of business in America. It seems like everything he has done in his career somewhat plays into this. Oh, no, we tell these students that we're going to give them, we tell these students to take out massive loans to come to a university, and we tell them we're going to give them a brighter future, and then we put them into a program that most students get out of and they can never afford to pay off their student debts. But no, these people are just looking out for themselves. They're not looking out for the greater good. Kirk Schultz goes on. He goes on in this interview to talk about what the possibilities are for Washington State, which is interesting because we know Stanford is talking right now. Stanford has the best shot to go anywhere because Stanford is Stanford. And they at least bring a good sports program in everything they do. Now, we know the lights suck at their baseball field. I'll warn any conference that takes them, tell them to upgrade their lights. We know that. We know that they're a little hoity-toity, that they don't necessarily want to be around you schools that don't have the academic standards of a Stanford. They don't want that, so you may get some of that. But they're a good program. They're a well-run school. They're a good program. So I get why people would want to have them on. Cal is another one. Man, you get an access into California. You get some money in that market. Awesome. I get why you want to take Cal. Oregon State, Washington State, I don't know why anybody would want them right now. They're not great programs. I mean, if Mike Leach is there, maybe you go for Mike Leach. The same reason you go for Colorado and Deion is, hey, man, at least they got a fun coach. Maybe. But he's not there. Mike Leach has passed on. Mike Leach is going down now as a legend. Says, at the end of the day, us doing something on the East Coast, and it's a hell of a lot of money, there's just no way to make it work. So he's saying, unless you give us a ton of money, ACC, we're not really interested. We're not interested in going all the way over to the ACC unless you give us a full share. We're not taking less to go over and join a conference. We're still trying to hold out hope that somebody cares about us. He said that he's looking at Mountain West. This is probably the most likely scenario for Oregon State and Washington State is they end up in the Mountain West. That's probably what it is. And he also mentioned that the Pac-12, maybe, they could try and bring the Pac-12 back to life. Yes, Washington State and Oregon State, if they get to keep Stanford and they get to keep Cal, because they got to keep these two schools, right? We got to have somebody. Nobody cares about us. We got to have Stanford and we got to have Cal. If we keep them and they don't make the deal with the ACC, right? Maybe we can do it. And maybe we can steal some of these Mountain West schools and restart the Pac-12. And maybe we can go into Texas. And maybe if we get into Texas and we can start to steal some of their schools, because now we know the Big 12 is down because Texas is in the SEC and Texas A&M is in the SEC. And the Big 12 has Texas Tech and TCU and Houston and SMU and Baylor. They have all these schools. But maybe we'll steal an SMU. Maybe we'll go and maybe we'll get Texas State. Austin's a growing market. It's right down the road. Maybe we'll get us a Texas State. I don't think it's happening. I think you're still holding out for hope if you're in the Pac-12 and if you're one of these small schools. And what's amazing is when you saw the quotes of some of the other athletic directors and presidents of their schools, what they started to say about the Apple TV offer and what they thought of a subscription service. They kind of treated it a little bit more as a joke. Here's Arizona president Robert C. Robbins. This is his opinion. This is what he said about when they were presented with the Apple TV subscription deal.
So parts of it were very, very compelling and exciting. And it was Apple. And it was, in our backyard. And but I think the base price, the guaranteed price, the fact that there was no linear and that it was subscription-based, none of us, we were trying to think, well, it's going to be like selling, candy bars for Little League or, Girl Scout cookies.
It's going to be like selling candy bars for Little League. It's going to be like Girl Scout cookies. That is what he said about a major college football conference and what they thought of their TV deal that George Kliavkoff could present them. That's what he thought of it. He equated what they put together as selling candy bars for Little League. He said George Kliavkoff took the Pac-12 and relegated us to going out and trying to sell our own things. And the rest of the Pac-12 was fine with it. Oregon State, Washington State, they're fine with it. Now, everybody else started to see it and started to go, oh, you know what? We need to rethink this. We need to get out of here. But Washington State, Oregon State, Stanford, Cal, they all seem to be fine with it, which is crazy because we were talking about Kirk Schultz and his comments because he finally came out today and started to talk about trying to make himself the victim, trying to make it, I'm just an honest guy in this world. I'm just an honest guy who was screwed over by people with their own best interest in mind. That's what he's saying. Here's Kirk Schultz a few months ago explaining why a deal that's not particularly, this deal in particular, but why you need to have a firm number of what money you're going to be getting.
You can't throw a number up there, build a budget off it, and then find out later that you were $5 million off in that number because you took the best projections that were there and said, hey, let's just do it. And then when it doesn't come to pass, we put ourselves in a really tough spot. I can't overemphasize, we can't build a budget off of projections that have no basis in reality. And that's what got us here. And we just got to be careful not doing that moving forward.
That was Washington State President Kirk Schultz a couple months ago telling you, hey, you know how we got in this problem in the first place was we projected the landscape of college football to be one thing. We projected we would be making this amount of money, and we weren't. That's what we project. We can't do that. We can't take the best possible projections. And then when he works on the board of directors with the Pac-12 and he works with the regents and he works with everybody to get a deal for the Pac-12 and he helps out George Kliavkoff, and Kliavkoff comes back with a subscription-based service where everything is going to be based on projections because you don't know. And it's not that you don't know, hey, what are we getting, in 5 years? No, it's what are you getting this year? How many subscriptions dropped? Hey, you know what? We're doing a Pac-12 subscription, and Arizona State lost their first 3 games. We lost every subscriber from Arizona State. We lost 70% of subscribers from Arizona State. We lost 200,000 subscribers, let's just say. All right, well, now the next team, they go on a 2-game losing streak. We just lost another 60,000 subscribers. We just lost another one. They want money back, and they're complaining. And now we're spending money. We're trying to put together, and now people are complaining because our programming is not good enough because we don't know how much money we're going to make, so we can't afford to project, as you said, and budget. Everything you just said is the reason why you cannot run with a subscription-based service when you're talking about one of the most valuable commodities in television today, which is college football. It was never going to work. And to blame other schools and to blame anybody else other than your own inability to project the future landscape of television deals and college football is hypocritical, and it's stupid. And all it really is another excuse for you to feel bad about yourself because you failed at your job. And in reality, when you say that, man, it brings out the worst in people. It brings out the worst because they're trying to do it. What are you trying to do right now? You just said, man, maybe we can go to the Pac-12. Man, we can only go to the East Coast if they offer us enough money. That's what you said because you're looking out for yourself because that's what you're supposed to do in America. I don't always agree with what Deion Sanders said. I don't agree with him all the time. But when he was asked about a realignment and when he was asked about people getting mad about realignment and people criticizing people about realignment, I think he was kind of on the nose on this one.
All this is about money, you know that. It's about a bag. Everybody's chasing a bag. Then you get mad at the players when they chase it. How's that? How do the grown-ups get mad at the players when they chasing it when the colleges are chasing it?
Yeah, that's true. I just
know that's true.
Couple more teams moving today. I mean, it's just crazy.
Yeah, same teams are talking about us, right? Oh, Lord, that was good.
There's you go. There's Deion Sanders. Hey, man, you get mad about it. You get mad about it. You get mad about it when the players do it. You get mad about it when the other schools do it. You get mad about it when everybody does it. When you do it, it's the right thing to do. Guys need to get out of it. And you need to realize that this is what the future is of college football. This is the future of college sports. And I know it's not ideal. It's not what everybody wants. But But it is what it is because the money is too big. And the guys, when the paycheck's too big, you can't turn around and say, no, let's let ESPN make all the money and Fox make all the money. And we'll take less so that we're not exploiting people, so that we're not exploiting these student athletes. We're not exploiting the parents of our student athletes who can't fly to these schools. You can't say that. That's crazy. You're not going to let someone else get your bag. So if you're now one of these schools and you're getting through and you've moved conferences and you go, I want you to have the viewpoint of Sark. And this was one of my favorite things Sark had at his last press conference. There's two parts of it I really like about Sark when he was asked about realignment. And I like two parts of this. I'll play it for you right now and I'll tell you what I liked.
I talked about all this a year ago. We were the talk of realignment a year ago. We talked about it last year. This year, we're in the Big 12. What everybody else is doing, hey, I said it a year ago, adapt or die. College football is changing on a lot of levels, so you got to adapt to what it is. You all have to adapt to what it is, right? The game is changing. The conferences are changing. NIL's changing. Transfer portal's changing. We're in the Big 12 this year. That's what our focus is on. What everybody else decides to do, that's up to them.
There you go. Adapt or die. Everything is changing. Everything is constantly changing. Adapt or die. Go ahead. Make your move, but you can't sit and complain about it. What do you say at the end? Hey, man, we're in the Big 12. We're going to go try and win the Big 12. We're going to go try and win a national championship. We're going to do what we can handle. I love it. I love that attitude from Sark coming out of it. When you see so many schools that are so behind the eight ball and not pushing it, it's nice to be a Longhorns fan where, as much grief as Texas got a year ago when they moved, or 2 years ago or 3 years ago, whenever it was when they announced the move. You saw why. When I could play you all that stuff of what the Pac-12 is going through with Kliavkoff. They saw that with Bowlesby. That was the future until they brought in Brett Yormark. That was the future. Texas had to leave. If Texas doesn't leave, then Bowlesby's still there. It may all still go down. The Big 12 may not be here. If Texas doesn't leave, if Texas and Oklahoma don't leave, there's a chance that the Pac-12 exists and the Big 12 doesn't, because the Big 12 is what was absorbed. That's a reality that could exist if Bob Bowlesby was still in charge, because he didn't forward think like Brett Yormark did, and Brett Yormark helped kill the Pac-12. If we talk about bad commissioners, let's go over and talk about some bad owners. It was our big fat poll of the day yesterday. It's our big fat poll of the day. Let's get into it.
Patrick's Big Fat Poll of the Day on the Horn.
512-337-3776 is the Specs text line number, how you can join the conversation with us here on the Horn on the Sports Complex. 512-337-3776. We asked you yesterday, because of all the Kevin Brown noise, because Kevin Brown was suspended for talking about basically statistical facts of the Baltimore Orioles, and they get their karma last night when they give up a home run, a grand slam in the top of the ninth. This is the audience. This is the crowd last night in Baltimore.
Free Kevin Brown! 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 Free Kevin Brown!
When you can have a audience, when you can have a crowd that's packed out to see you because you put a good product on the field and they still hate you as an owner, they still hate you and tell you to free Kevin Brown. That's a special type of ownership right there. We asked you yesterday, who is the current worst owner in American sports? We put the poll up. We had a lot of suggestions. A lot of them were great. Love some of the stuff on Twitter. Loved Antonio Brown on Twitter. That was great. Some great suggestions on there. So we asked, but a lot of people kept bringing up past sports owners and owners that are no longer owners, but they were terrible. The winner of the poll yesterday was Jerry Jones, which I don't agree with, but that's who you guys voted for. And if we're going to talk all the time, I want to try and save Jerry Jones some face. So I'm going to bring the poll back with a different phrasing today to save Jerry Jones some face, because I don't think he's the worst owner. But you guys did. You guys voted for it. That's who you picked. So we're putting up the big fat poll of the day. It'll go up on social media, but I need your question, your suggestions, so we can put it up on the poll on our social media later tonight. Who is the worst owner in American sports history is what we are asking today. Who is the worst owner in American sports history? Opens us up to now the Donald Sterlings and the Dan Snyders and the Bud Adams and all those come back into the equation. So hit us up on the Specs text line 512-337-3776. Who is the worst owner all time in American sports history? And I'm going to give you a couple of suggestions here. I'm going to put in a couple of ones that you may not go to first and foremost. And Marge Schott, I'm going to throw that one in there first for you. Marge Schott, not a terrible owner in the sense of as she ran the team okay. But everything behind the scenes has got to put her in there. And I'm going to read you one quote from Marge Schott that will, I think, single-handedly possibly put her on the list of one of the worst owners of all time. Here's a direct quote from Marge Schott. Hitler was good in the beginning, but he went too far. That's a direct quote from Marge Schott, former owner of the Cincinnati Reds. That's a owner of a professional baseball team giving you what her opinion is on a subject that why? Just don't answer that question. Why would you answer that question at all? And I'm going to give you another one. This one's less terrible, but he's one of the worst owners in the sense of ruining a franchise. Ted Stepien. He owned the Cleveland Cavaliers from 1981 to 1983. Ted Stepien is so bad at ownership that there is now a rule called the Stepien Rule in the NBA in the NBA CBA, which basically the Stepien Rule is whenever you see when they're talking about trades and what can happen, the Stepien Rule is a rule that says that you cannot trade first-round draft picks in consecutive years. So if you trade your 2025 draft pick, you can't trade your 2026 first-round draft pick. You have to trade your 2027. And the reason they did this is because when Ted Stepien bought the Cavs, they were not a very good team. And he wanted to make them better, and he wanted to make them better right away. And he said, the draft is not how we do it, because the draft back in that day wasn't the same. You had to pay players that he didn't want to do that. He wanted to get known active players now. And so he started to trade away all his future first-round draft picks to start bringing in players. And he did it very, very poorly. Got guys with injuries, got guys that didn't pan out, guys that had potential but never reached it. And basically trade away 10 years of Cavs future first-round draft picks. And the team was still awful. So they basically forced him to sell the team in 1983 because he's ruining his franchise. Cleveland fans can't stand him. He's destroyed. He doesn't want to own the team anymore because he's awful. He's not making any money. Then to get someone to buy the new team, the NBA has to then give this Cavs just other first-round draft picks. They just have to give them some back because there's no way this team will be able to survive for the 10 years that Stepien ruined them for. If you get a rule named after you because of your incompetence, it has to put you near a list or in consideration as the worst owners in sports history. Ted Stepien there. That's the Big Fat Poll today. Tell us what you think. Your suggestions for our poll of the worst sports owners in American sports history all time. Give it to us. 512-337-3776 is the Specs text line. When we come back, we'll be talking about Hard Knocks and my disdain for reality television and why I think Hard Knocks falls into that. Here on the Horn at 1019 AM 1260. Live, local, and digital on the Horn app and at hornfm.com. Welcome back to the Sports Complex here on the Horn. Since it's our debut week, our musical theme of the week is playing all songs that were the debut singles for some of the biggest artists in music history. This, of course, Otis Redding, just beautiful. Start off the day with a little with Otis Redding. Well, I mean, not start off the show. The day, if they are starting off your day right now, you know, I hope you're working nights. Let's put it that way. I don't want to criticize anybody. I've had some friends. I was once, I was in my younger days. There was once that my neighbor, someone smashed the back windshield of my car, and my neighbor waited till noon to wake me up to tell me. He's like, I couldn't wait anymore. Someone smashed down. Yeah, that was I was a much younger man, and was working for a band at the time, so my schedule was a little bit different. That I would sleep a lot more during the day. Not anymore. I don't think I could. I don't know if last time I slept till noon. I bet I could do it. I have confidence in myself that I could still be, you know, just really, really lazy. Our big fat poll of the day today is the who is the worst owner in American sports history? Yesterday, we had the worst current owner in American sports. Y'all voted for Jerry Jones. I don't believe it. I want to give him some retribution. So I'm going to put him up in a poll with the worst owners of all time. Some truly despicable people, and hopefully you will not vote for Jerry Jones again. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to help out Jerry Jones. There's some suggestions. George Steinbrenner is up there. George Steinbrenner is, look, first of all, he's in Seinfeld. And the story that he got cut from Seinfeld, that they actually got him to do it and then figured out it didn't work. He was so bad they had to get Larry David to do it. But I don't know if I'm going to put George Steinbrenner on there. I mean, he won a lot. He was terrible if you were not a Yankees fan. I think if you're a Yankees fan, you know, you hated him, but you loved him because he won, and he's definitely better than his kid. Let's see. We also have Donald Sterling, of course, Marge Schott. Donald Trump, I did not think, Donald Trump in the USFL was another one who did not do very well. That was not a great one. Let's get into, but if you want to join that conversation, 512-337-3776 is how you join the conversation here on the Sports Complex on the Horn. The Specs text line, 512-337-3776. Tell us who you think the worst owner in American sports history is. And we will get our poll together. We'll put that out later, and you guys can vote online as well. Hard Knocks debuted last night. I found out about it this morning when people were talking about it. I have not watched Hard Knocks. And when I say I've not watched Hard Knocks, I will tell you I've never watched Hard Knocks. It is not something that has ever interested me. It's not something that I ever really was desperate to watch and I've had HBO. I've had abilities to watch it. It's not a simply financial decision to not get the Hard Knocks. I understand it a bit more when back in the day when there wasn't social media and 25 cameras in every locker room and 25 cameras and they're just putting out material that maybe, you know, you go, oh man, this is how this works. I get a little bit more of that. But I wasn't really that interested in it then because I've been lucky enough to do sports coverage and work in some cool different environments and work on, you know, different areas. I've been into some of these areas. So I get that, you know, maybe there's a little bit more access than other people get, but I've seen a lot of this stuff. I've been lucky in my life to be able to do this. I've worked in you know, between music and radio the last 20, 25 years. I've done a lot of crazy things. So I've got to be able to see, and when I say I don't mean crazy, I mean I've been able to do a lot of things that, you know, you wouldn't expect. I would not have expected myself in high school to be able to do. So I never really got fully into the Hard Knocks thing. And when people try and explain it to me and they try to always push why they think Hard Knocks is going to be great this year, whatever, this year to me seems the most of why I would not like it. Because it is Aaron Rodgers and New York City. It is the key of phoniness. And I know Aaron Rodgers wants to be very not phony, but he also understands that if he is just who he is, then everybody's going to hate him because he's going to talk about Darkness Retreats more, and he's going to talk about, and he also knows that in his head, I don't want to say he knows, in his head, he's right about all this stuff, and you're wrong. And so I think that there's just something about it where he knows I know how to play against the cameras. I'm going to come out as America's sweetheart, and I'm going to be the guy who's changed everything. And, man, we're just going to do this, and we're going to win a Super Bowl, and isn't it going to be great? And it's the real problem with all reality TV and why Hard Knocks is reality TV. And now, every once in a while, you get a Darrelle Revis. You get a Rogers Cromartie. You get a Jamal Williams last year was amazing. You get real people that are just the type of people that you can put a camera on and they're crazy. And you take a camera off and they're crazy. And you put them in a room by themselves and they're crazy. You get those people and they're just going to say weird and funny things. That's great. But most reality television is people acting the way they think they should be acting, right? And they're trying to go, oh, no, I'm playing a character. I'm playing this role of myself, but you're not. You're supposed to be. It's supposed to be real, and it's not real. And when you start doing that, it starts to take away from the game. I love sports, but I don't like made-up documentaries about it where the narrative is decided before that you film it, before you do the research that you've already decided the narrative that you're going to do. I don't like reality TV where you say, oh, no, we know what we need, and we have these cadences. We need a hit. We need to get the guy who gets cut. We need to have the coach get in there. When does the coach get mad? And, oh, we're going to show a drop pass, and Aaron Rodgers is going to get mad, and then he's going to make up for it, and then we're going to show the O-line and their relationship, and we're going to show all this stuff. All of those, I get. I get why it works, and it works in television. It sells. It's not for me. So I can't tell you about Hard Knocks, but I can tell you on Ian Rod B this morning that they talked about the curse of Hard Knocks. And they talked about how I believe only 5 playoff wins have come off of teams that are appearing in these reality TV shows. It's terrible. Here's Ian Rod B this morning talking about Hard Knocks and the Hard Knocks curse.
Time for Raj Round today, and I want to talk about Hard Knocks a little bit. So there are a lot of people excited about the Jets. They're going to be playing in what I think we all agree is the toughest division now in the NFL. Got the Bills. They're still going to be a powerhouse. Miami's going to be much better. Got Vic Fangio now as a DC to take over the defense. Jalen Ramsey, he's dealing with an injury, but he'll be back, and that's an upgrade on defense. So I think Miami's going to be legit. And the Patriots won't be that's not a pushover. They're not the Patriots with Tom Brady as the quarterback, but they're not a pushover. They still got Belichick, so they won't be an easy win. And then you have the Jets, which are the story of the offseason so far. The NFL is, America's #1 TV show, and right now, one of, I think, the most interesting of those characters is the Jets. And remember, you talked about it yesterday, that Hall of Fame game Jets played in, but they participated in. Aaron Rodgers was
players who will never play for the Jets. Exactly,
yeah. But it ended up getting some of the highest ratings we've ever seen for a preseason game. Actually got higher ratings than the NBA playoffs did. It's crazy. So people are just really thirsty for football. They have an appetite for it. They're jonesing for it. But also people are just captivated by this Jet story with Aaron Rodgers going to the Jets. So there are some people picking the Jets to win the division and to make a playoff run. I went and looked at the Hard Knocks series since 2001, the 20 teams that have participated in Hard Knocks, to try to see what their playoff success stories were like and how many of them actually won playoff games. Out of those 20 teams, 7 made the playoffs, that's a decent number. Only 3 won a playoff game though, out of the 20 teams since 2001 that have been on Hard Knocks. So I went a little bit deeper. I said, okay, so we're just looking at reality-based TV docu-series about NFL teams, and there's the All or Nothing series as well, and you have 5 NFL teams that have done that. So I went and looked at that series to try to see how many of those teams, it was Arizona, the Rams, Cowboys, Carolina, Philly, how many of them actually won a playoff game. 1 out of 5 of that group which gives you right now 4 out of 25. I went and looked at the quarterback documentary on Netflix. I mean, you had 3 quarterbacks. You had Kirk Cousins, you had Marcus Mariota, and of course you had Patrick Mahomes. So out of those 3 quarterbacks who were followed around by a camera crew to make a reality docu-series about their season, you only had 1 quarterback, and Patrick Mahomes won the Super Bowl, that won playoff games out of those 3. So add all that up, all right, and you got 28 possible situations where there's a docu-series about a team, whether you're talking about All or Nothing, Hard Knocks, or you're talking about the quarterback series on Netflix. And out of those 28 possible scenarios, you're talking about now 5 that won a playoff game.
Oh.
5 that won a playoff game. So I'm not saying that they can't win a playoff game.
Numbers
the Jets,
would tell you they
but
won't.
I'm saying recent history of the reality TV docu-series,
Behind the curtain.
yes, being a part of the cultivation of your culture as a team, that something about it is off. That something about it doesn't lead to playoff success. Now, my theory is simple, and I think it's a simple theory that everybody can relate to. When cameras are around, human beings are just different. Some people are shyer, some people are more outgoing, whatever. Cameras are around, people usually aren't their authentic, genuine selves. You get an inauthentic, disingenuous, projection of whoever that person wants you to think that they are. And this happens in, I think, reality TV, actually, when they have these dating shows. I went and tracked The Bachelor and The Bachelorette.
Oh, my gosh.
Right?
You tracked it.
And when you went back and looked at it, you got 47 seasons of The Bachelor and The Bachelorette. So we're talking about cultivating a relationship culture, a connection with another human being with cameras all around you, which means you're probably being disingenuous, you're being inauthentic, you're not your real self, you're away from the real world, you're on some island somewhere where they're giving you alcohol and you're hanging out in some beautiful exotic locale, which all these things are, they
With
are
24
mirages.
other dudes and females.
All these random scenarios, you're competing, whatever it may be. It's not necessarily the best environment to create a genuine connection with another human being, which is why when these people leave these situations as a couple, they're almost doomed. They're doomed to fail, right? It's inevitable. So out of those 47 Bachelor, Bachelorette seasons, I found only 9 of them are still together.
9 out of 47.
9 out of the 47 are still together. It's what you expect. You're like, yeah, that's about right. That's those things are
I've
doomed
always
to
said
fail.
on those shows that because eventually, if you get married or are with that person, they're going to watch the show and they're going to be.
What the hell were you?
You were with her too.
you did what? You said what about me?
You said that to her as well.
Oh, you kissed her. Then
Same
you
thing
went.
you said to me.
What did y'all do in the fantasy suite?
Yeah, what was going on in there?
Exactly.
Over.
No, it's very similar to me because at that time, these people are trying to create a genuine connection with another human being with cameras around them, with all these extenuating circumstances. It's just not really, like I said, a productive environment, right, to try to connect with another human being. Same thing when you're trying to cultivate a culture of a football team at its infancy, at the beginning. Training camp, different human beings who are trying to work together toward a common goal, and you guys are trying to fit all these different personalities together. All of that happening with some people now being fake. Some people now shying away from connecting with their teammates because the cameras are all around. Some people like that. Some people don't like it. And it just creates a fake environment. And I think it's tough to cultivate a true culture that is going to be, I think that is something that's going to help you. It's something that's beneficial when times get tough late in the season, injuries, all that mounts up, and then you have to go into playoffs and try to win games against really good teams who have a really productive, a really positive, culture that can help them win games. It's a part of the DNA of their team, and I think that ultimately that's why the relationships fail for The Bachelor and The Bachelorette, and that's why these teams who are on these reality TV docuseries, they have a hard time winning playoff games because it's tough to build a culture that way.
That's what I'm saying. It's tough to build a culture. These people are not real. Everything is made up for TV. And a thing in sports where it should be just competition. We should just be enjoying these games. And I get it. We can have the stories, and I don't mind. There's social media. We'll get the inside. They'll show us celebrating after a game. They'll show us all the good things. I don't need Hard Knocks anymore. I didn't need it ever. I don't know how many of you are still caring about Hard Knocks. They want to do it more now. They want to do it during the season, and nobody wants that. No team wants to be a part of Hard Knocks anymore because they know what the beats are, and they know how much it distracts, and they know the record that Rod just talked about. People don't win. But as much as doing 2 hours of radio by myself a day would make me think, you know what? Let me watch Hard Knocks, and it'll give me some content and some things to talk about. And I don't know if I can do it. And I'll tell you why, because I can't watch reality TV. And the best way I've heard it summed up is by comedian Dana Gould. I got to interview him a couple years ago at Moon Tower Comedy. Just a good guy, hilarious. One of the funniest guys. Worked on The Simpsons forever. Here's Dana Gould explaining my thoughts on reality television.
You will never experience less reality than when you're watching a reality show. You're watching people who aren't actors put into situations created by people who aren't writers. And they're second guessing how they think you would like to see them behave if this were a real situation, which it's not. And you are passively observing this. You're watching an amateur production of nothing. It's like a photo of a drawing of a hologram.
There you go. That's my viewpoint on reality television and why I'm not going to be watching Hard Knocks and why I just kind of want all reality TV to go away. Pay your writers, pay your actors, give me real television, and, make enough bad TV that there's some good. Don't make enough reality television that there's good TV, because all it is the most entertaining 7 minutes out of a day. I can't stand it. We're going to come back. We will give you some of your answers for the worst sports owner in sports history. For our big fat poll of the day, text that in 512-337-3776. The worst owner in American sports history. Give us those answers, our suggestions there. We'll read off some of those, figure out who we're going to put on our poll later today for the worst owner in sports history. And we'll tell you a story about how things in Florida, even the mayors, maybe getting into some trouble, maybe keeping out of trouble. I don't know. We'll tell you when we come back here on the Sports Complex on the Horn. Back on the Sports Complex here on the Horn, playing some music. Best debut songs from some of the biggest bands in the world for our debut week here on the Horn. God, man, this feels like this shouldn't be the first song of the Doors, but I guess it is. From every list I've seen, this is the first song from the Doors. Let's get to some of your answers from the Specs text line 512-337-3776. Our big fat poll today. Today we are trading suggestions for who is the worst owner in reality in American sports history. I feel like it's going to be hard to narrow this list down. We have a good one here. The guy who killed the Expos and then also doesn't keep the Marlins in contention, even though they keep getting up. He's just notoriously cheap. Jeffrey Loria is the guy who he moved the Expos, he killed them, moved them to Washington, then sold the team to the commissioner's office basically, and then bought the Marlins, and then has just kind of ruined them as well. And every time they're good, he sells off all the players because he doesn't want to, he realizes the scheme of how to make money in MLB is not necessarily always winning. And he just wants to win money. He doesn't care about owning a team the way he owns a team to just make money. So I agree. Jeffrey Loria is up there. If you're a fan of any of his teams, he just is a terrible person to have as your owner. Bob Irsay, he says. And he doesn't like Jim Irsay either. Art Modell, of course, moved the Browns to Baltimore, and then they win the title. Dan Snyder, Donald Trump, all on his list. Lots of good. Yawkey, Thomas Yawkey, I think it is, owned the Boston Red Sox for like 40 years. He was one of the last teams to integrate. There's a dispute of how much he fought against integrating. Let's put it that way. There's some people say because he was the last all-white team in MLB that he was holding out against it. Others say no, he had people in the minor leagues and he wasn't against it. They just weren't as good. I don't know. It doesn't seem good either way. So I get why he's on this list. I can understand why he's on that list. This listener says, my vote for Marge Schott and her freaking dogs. Had to put her out of my mind until you reminded me. Sorry to remind you. But Adams also comes up again as an Oilers fan. I can't stand him either. I don't know if he's going to make the list. I know if he's on my list, he would be on there. I can't stand him, but I don't know if he'll make the list when there's some other really good names up there. John Fisher of the A's, a very topical one. He's definitely an awful. It's from D-Fry there on the text line. Yeah, that is John Fisher. I think he made his money from Gap. Is how he made his money, and basically was his idea is it's just I'm going to tank the A's and move the team, and unless you give me a free building that I want to put no money into, then you have to give me free. You have to give me basically billions of dollars for free, or else I'm moving your baseball team. It's just awful. And he's not the only owner that does this, but it is extremely annoying when you see people doing this. Cannot stand it. We get Al MFing Davis. Yeah, we had Mark Davis is one of the people that a lot of people were complaining about yesterday of current owners. Is Al Davis worse than Mark Davis? Is Mark Davis worse than Al Davis? I don't know. I feel like Al Davis at least won because he was just win, baby. And if you're not cheating, you're not trying. He did look like the bad guy from Star Wars at the end. The other bad, not Darth Vader, the other bad guy. He looked like him at the end. I don't remember his name. Sorry, I have to recall too many athletes in sports. I'm trying to remember sports owners' names. I can't remember Star Wars characters too. Charles Comiskey was kind of a S owner and a notorious cheapskate. Yes, that is another one. And people say Jerry Jones is a good owner. He's a terrible general manager. And I agree with this. I agree with this wholly. I will give one caveat to this. He is the one who hired himself as general manager. So if he has hired the worst general manager in the NFL consecutively and not fired the worst general manager in the NFL, does not make him a bad owner. That is my retort to him being a better owner. I get it. I don't think he should be on that list. That's not who I would have picked. I put him on there for you guys, and you voted for him. So I was just giving it to you guys. So hell no, Al was a winner. Took on the NFL and won. So yeah, I think that if we're gonna say, I think we say Mark Davis is worse of the Al Davis, Mark Davis Raiders ownership. Keep sending those in. 512-337-3776 is the number for the Specs text line. How you can send in your answers to the Big Fat Poll today or anything else we're talking about. We can do any of that. We'll get back to our Tampa Bay Mayor story here in a little bit, but we're going to come up and talk about some NFL stories when we come back after the break here on the Sports Complex on the Horn, 1019 AM 1260 on the Horn app and at hornfm.com. Back at the Sports Complex here on the Horn. Little Missy Elliott. Little Missy Elliott there for you here on the Horn. We're playing the best debut songs for our debut week. And this has got to be up there. This one's always a banger. Missy Elliott with the rain. We could use some rain. I would take some rain right now. Preferably not on Sunday. I need it to cool down. If you could rain like Friday, Saturday, that would be great. Sunday, got a big show out at the Rail House celebrating the life and legacy of MC Overlord. If y'all want to come out there, happening Sunday at the Rail House. And Kyle, come on down and say hey to me. But let's get into some updates on some MLB action real quick. The Rangers play today, lose 2-0. They'd been on a win streak since the trade deadline. That is now ended. They lose the game. They are off tomorrow, staying in San Francisco, because when you play in Oakland, you stay in San Francisco, not Oakland. And they will begin their series next week with the Giants, or on this weekend, later this week on Friday. They will begin their series with the Giants. So just kind of hanging out in San Francisco today and tomorrow, I'm sure, for the Rangers. Not the way you want to do it, but it's not a travel day. So I guess, you don't want to do it on the day off, but if you're not traveling, it's not as bad. I think they'll be fine. This is a little bit harder of a series, though, going over to play the Giants. The Giants are a team vying for a playoff spot versus the A's, who, well, their owner is on our list of worst owners, so that's probably not a good sign. The Astros as well, they are playing tonight. They get a big win last night. Kyle Tucker, basically John Singletary, first game. There's a great article up on The Athletic, if you have not read it yet, about his entire basically his path from being an Astros prospect and being the next big thing to all of his troubles in life. And this, I believe, is third stint on the Astros. Kills it in minor leagues. The question is, can he hit in the majors? But he did a big thing last night, drawing a walk. Ends up, Yordan Alvarez gets a hit where the same guy who had stolen a home run from earlier misses the catch, can't get over there. They get on base. Kyle Tucker gets on base. You have Yordan gets on base. You have three guys on base. Kyle Tucker gets a huge at bat, keeps fouling the balls off, finally gets a ball he wants, knocks it over the fence. Astros take the lead. It is a major blow to the Baltimore Orioles. I don't think that this will be the end of it. They're going to be coming back today. I've not checked the score yet. I will check the score before we get off to let you know how the Astros are doing today, playing right now as well. So we'll let you go. Chaz McCormick and Mauricio Dubon back in the lineup. Also a note that Ryan Presley does hit 10 years of MLB service today. So congratulations to Ryan Presley. And Astros GM Dana Brown was on the Sean Salisbury show on Sports Talk 790 this morning. He was on talking about several things. Sean Salisbury asked him at the end, hey, we always get asked, what about Kyle Tucker? He's not signed his contract. We haven't given an extension yet. Clearly, this guy's playing out of his mind right now. Wins a game for you against the league-leading Baltimore Orioles. What are we going to do? When are you going to pay him? This is a quote from Dana Brown this morning. Let me put it this way. Kyle Tucker will be a Houston Astro. We feel strongly about getting it done, and I feel he will be an Astro for the rest of his career. We'll get it done. Says, yeah, there's going to be some things about, we got to talk to his agent. Right now we're focused on baseball, and then we'll get with his agent and we'll get it done. It does not seem like he had anything nice to say about Kyle Tucker's agent. They would seem that. But Jim Crane is going to have to open up his wallet and pay some serious money to keep Kyle Tucker. The Astros fan base will be very upset if you let Kyle Tucker go. Terrible. So, but the news that he says Kyle Tucker will be a Houston Astro, and he will be an Astro for the rest of his career. If that is true, Dana Brown, if you can pull that off, if you can get Jim Crane to shell out the money, and you were able to keep Kyle Tucker, and I think a big part of that trade for Justin Verlander, and I know people say you had to give up some big prospects. I get that. That money to be able to get a Verlander back, but get his contract basically paid for, so now you have a little bit more money, and you're not paying that $40 million a year to Justin Verlander. A lot of that's covered by the Mets. Gives you that little bit of wiggle room to go get Kyle Tucker. That's a very cool thing. Something else I wanted to get to real quick before we get to the end of the show. Gilbert Arenas, who is never known to shy away from a controversial take. I don't agree with a ton of his takes, but I think this one, at least, it merits talking about because the USA men's basketball team, they started off They played on Monday, their first game. They win 117-74 against Puerto Rico. That score is very it doesn't tell the whole story because it was still somewhat close in the third quarter. Now, it was never really in doubt. It was never a point where you thought, man, Puerto Rico might win this because you could tell USA was kind of taking it slow. But they turn on the afterburners and blow them out. And yeah, it's one of the things. When you have the NBA, the conditioning is going to be better. You just have more depth that everybody on this roster is playing at a higher level. Gilbert Arenas was not a fan. He was talking with Trae Young and I believe his other co-host on his podcast about what he thought of the roster for Team USA for the FIBA World Cup this season.
You see that list, man, they got, man, oh, sorry-ass group. So, listen, I'm happy for the people who make it, right? It's cool. Like, it's cool for some of the guys who got there that I don't know, right? Some of them probably don't even start on their team. I don't know. I don't want to look at it. Because it's embarrassing sometimes where, like, you have star players who's really stars that do want to participate, and you just automatically just say, yeah, he's not going to fit our style. How the f*** you know if he's going to fit the style or not? You didn't get a man a chance. Or you don't even give a – like, there's a reason there's a tryout. Invite us all and let us show you that we can adapt. We didn't get to this level because we didn't adapt. We adapted very well. So don't judge me how I'm playing on my team. Like, my team, this is how I'm playing. Let me show you what I can do around other players. Just give me the shot, but it should be so crooked.
So crooked, what Gilbert Arenas says. I'll give you the lineup for this USA team to give you a little context. Paolo Banchero, Mikal Bridges, Jalen Brunson, Anthony Edwards, Tyrese Halliburton, Josh Hart, Brandon Ingram, Jaren Jackson Jr., Cam Johnson, Walker Kessler, Bobby Portis, and Austin Reeves. So he went on and doubled down on his podcast yesterday or today. He doubled down on it, and basically, I can't play the clip because there was too much cussing and there was too much back and forth and everything else. But he was basically saying, other than Anthony Edwards, everybody else would be the fifth best 12-man team in the NBA, which isn't true. Paolo Banchero is the up-and-coming star. Tyrese Halliburton, he just plays on a team that Gilbert Arenas doesn't watch on the Indiana Pacers. He had 12 assists in that game the other night. Brandon Ingram has gotten MVP votes. Brandon Ingram has played really, really well at points for the Pelicans. Jaren Jackson Jr. is your defensive player of the year. There are players on this team, and I know a lot of them are younger, so you don't necessarily know them. And this whole, hey, man, you're not giving people a shot because, and he says we, so this is clearly sour grapes. I get it. This roster, when it includes guys like Bobby Portis and Austin Reeves and a Walker Kessler that a lot of guys haven't heard about, but Walker Kessler, in all honesty, if you would have go back to that Rudy Gobert trade that the Timberwolves made, and you go back and you say, hey, would you trade Walker Kessler for Rudy Gobert, rookie contract Walker Kessler versus Rudy Gobert and all his money, Walker Kessler with all the potential that he has after he showed one season, you wouldn't make that trade now, just for that one guy. Not to mention all the other picks, not to mention everything else. So defensively, I get it. You put him in, he fits your system. A guy like Cam Johnson, probably not the best player, but a guy who can get into the system. He'll sit around and shoot threes. This is the problem of Wyatt Gilbert Arenas and why he never understood how basketball works at the NBA level. He understands a lot of things, and he can play basketball better than me any day of the week. And I know he knows a lot more about basketball in a lot of ways. But the fact that he continues to have this idea that, no, man, we just go out there and play street ball and we'll beat these teams. That's not how it works. And it's the commitment you have to put into these games. And that's the reason there are not more guys. If they went out and said, hey, Jason Tatum, you can come play on our team, and you basically got to show up on game days, and that's it, and you don't have to make all the practice commitments and all that other stuff. And, I mean, you don't even have to make these first 5 games. Because they still have 4 more games before they actually get to the FIBA World Cup. They're playing Saturday and Sunday this week. They're playing Friday and Sunday of next week, right? And they're going to be in Spain Saturday and Sunday, and then I think they go to Saudi Arabia. So they're going to be playing these other teams, right? But the commitment of time and their bodies and everything else, that's why a lot of these guys don't want to be there. Now, Trae Young's in that clip. He doesn't say anything. So you wonder if Trae Young is one of those guys who's like, you know what? I'd rather stick out of this one. I don't need to be a part of this. But when you look at players, and we want to look all across other teams. So to give you context of who is in this team, Brandon Ingram's a good player. Jaren Jackson Jr. is your your player from your defensive player of the year. I get Josh Hart doesn't make a lot of sense. Mikal Bridges, if you hadn't seen what he did in Brooklyn, wouldn't make sense, but he's one of the best perimeter defenders in the league, so I get why he's there. I get Cam Johnson. He can defend. He can shoot threes. I get he's not a top player by any means, but I get why he's on this team. Bobby Portis, that's the one that I would probably think the most I wouldn't get. Austin Reeves, you know what? You got to scare him with a white guy. You always got to put a couple white guys on your roster just in basketball just to throw them off. Some of the notable NBA players playing for other teams. Dominican Republic, Karl Anthony Towns playing for them. Jordan Clarkson's playing for the Philippines. Kyle Anderson's playing for China, which is weird. He got his Chinese citizenship. It's through his maternal great-grandfather, and no one knows if he had to give up his American citizenship for it, but he really wanted to do it. He wanted to play in the Olympics. He wants to play in these things. So Kyle Anderson is going and probably got a pretty hefty bag for changing his citizenship. Kyle Anderson playing for China. Serbia's got a bunch of guys like Bojan Bogdanovic, some other guys in the NBA. Big ones. Greece. Giannis is supposed to be playing for Greece. That's huge. You have Lauri Markkanen, who's an all-star, who's supposed to be playing for Finland. Australia has a ton of guys, including Dante Exum, who's on the Mavericks now, but Josh Giddey's on that team. Josh Green, who plays for the Mavericks. Joe Ingles. Patty Mills. Some good players. And then, of course, Slovenia has Luka Doncic. Canada, Jamal Murray. SGA. Dylan Brooks is on that team. RJ Barrett, Lou Dort. There's some good players over there. Now, Dwight Powell's on that team, so any Mavericks fan will tell you that it's terrible. So if you don't worry about them because, you know, they have Dwight Powell. So I wouldn't worry about them. And France, of course, has Nicolas Batum, Evan Fournier, Rudy Gobert, all playing for France. Some good teams. Victor Wembanyama not doing it this year. Victor Wembanyama stepped off of it this year. Because he knew the time commitment. It was too much. I get why Gilbert Arenas is upset, because it doesn't seem like you may reach out to a John Morant and say, hey, man, do you want to, you know, you're not able to, you know, you're suspended. Why don't you try and come over here? This isn't NBA related. This is USA basketball. And maybe you could help, you know, change your image by being on a fighting for America, winning gold medal for America. Maybe that would help your image. Maybe you call up a John Morant, but you don't know if he's a team player or not. Maybe you call up a Trae Young or DeJounte Murray, or you call up one of these guys that has a history of being a more ball-dominant player, and you don't go with this lineup. I don't think Jason Tatum's going. I think a lot of these guys don't want to go. They go to the Olympics for sure. But FIBA? I don't need to go to FIBA. I don't want to deal with, you know what? It's not as fun. It's not as fun of a place. And I like my off season. And you want to take 2 off seasons in a row? The Olympics are next year. You want 2 off seasons in a row? I get why this lineup is going to be pretty different. I imagine they'll still keep Jaren Jackson Jr., Brandon Ingram if he still wants to be there, Tyrese Halliburton. Jalen Brunson's been playing great. I'm sure he'd still be on the team. Paolo Banchero would not surprise me if he stays on the Olympic team. Mikal Bridges, if he continues to progress, will still be on that team. There's only a couple guys that you think wouldn't make the Olympic team because of a Jason Tatum or a John Morant or a Jaylen Brown. Now he's on there. If Dame Lillard wanted to come out, the older guys don't normally, or LeBron or somebody wanted to come and play in the Olympics. There's only a few of these guys that you go, okay, they get knocked out. Josh Hart, yeah, he wouldn't be there. Cam Johnson, you'd replace. You'd replace. Bobby Portis, Austin Reeves, of course you'd replace him if you get a top-tier talent. But most of these guys would play on the Olympic team. So if you say over half of this roster would play on the Olympic team, which is definitely the bigger team where more people want to go because they do have qualifications to be there, then this isn't the 5th team NBA that we're sending over there. This is really the 2nd team, 3rd team NBA. I get people like Gilbert Arenas are looking at guys like Austin Reeves and Bobby Portis and Walker Kessler and saying that's the whole roster. It's not the whole roster. That's the end of the bench. The end of the bench. The guys who knew they were going to go and not play a ton of minutes, that they were only going to play in blowouts. The guys who are willing to put in a ton of work, be good practice guys, learn the best players and mimic other players in practice. Those guys. And you need to have the guys that will bring the intensity to practice. I always love what David Robinson said about the Dream Team. in any documentary or any story you see about the Dream Team, they'll talk about how the practices were legendary because it was the best players in basketball getting together and trying to prove they were the best. David Robinson said that after those practices, how tough they were and how hard everybody went in practice, said it changed how I had to be at practice when I went back to the Spurs. I realized I needed to dominate every practice because it'll make everybody else better. If I play at 100% in practice, it makes everybody else have to play at their 100% in practice. If I'm saying, well, I'm better than all these guys at 75%, so I don't have to try as hard, it makes me worse. It makes the team worse. I need to go out there and play my best. I love that attitude, but that is the attitude of why guys like Gilbert Arenas were not on the FIBA World Cup teams. We're going to come back, wrap things up on Last Call. Join us on the conversation, 512-337-3776. We'll be back here on the Sports Complex on the Horn, 1019 AM 1260, hornfm.com, and on the Horn app. All right, time to wrap things up here on the Sports Complex. It's Last Call. Every day on Last Call, we'll give you some suggestions of what to do with the rest of your day and some shows to check out, some things to watch on TV. I can tell you, not a lot of sports on the regular package today. We can give you an update on the Astros. The Astros currently in the bottom of the second. They put up 2 runs in the first, 1 run in the second. They're up 3-0 right now over the Baltimore Orioles. Another Kyle Tucker home run, an Altuve single that knocks in Jose Abreu and Dubon. So, Astros up 3-0. We know no lead is safe, though, so I won't celebrate that one too much. That game is ongoing right now, so you can check that one out if you wanted something else to do. It's also $1 hot dog night up at the Round Rock Express. They're playing the Albuquerque Isotopes. Shout out to Round Rock Express. The $1 hot dog night. It's been a while since I've been up there for that, but always nice to just shove cheap hot dogs down your throat for a little bit to feel like you're saving and you're helping, and then later that night realize that you've only played yourself. Always a fun thing to do, a real American tradition. And also a band, Foam, is going to be playing at Mohawk tonight. Foam, a very cool band. If you're into kind of just a little bit more psychedelic, I'll go psychedelic is what I'll say about it. It's a cool band where it is you're going to feel the vibes. They're playing at the Mohawk tonight, so you can check that out as well. Thanks to everybody who joined us on the Specs text line Today. March Shot getting a lot. So March Shots definitely have to go on this list. Yes, you mentioned the Hitler thing. I read that quote earlier. I actually wrote that quote down for March Shot, which is, Hitler was good in the beginning, but he went too far. That is a quote by an actual owner of an MLB team. I think that probably puts you on the list. There's some terrible other things. Donald Sterling had some terrible quotes. Dan Snyder. I don't know how I'm going to figure out who is the top 4, because I can only put 4 in this poll. Who are the top 4 worst sports owners of all time? I don't know. That's going to be you know what? If you still listening, send us in your top 4 worst owners, and maybe I can pare down from there, and we'll put some on there. 512-337-3776 is the Specs text line. I do appreciate everybody for joining in on the conversation there. We will be back tomorrow. We'll give you some more. We'll get you ready for the Texans' first preseason game of the year against the New England Patriots. We'll get you up to date. I believe our brother Joe Cook is going to be calling in to talk some Texas football as well. So all that coming up tomorrow on the Sports Complex. Until then, be safe out there. Take care of each other. Take care of yourselves. Keep your underwear clean. And we'll see you tomorrow right here on the Sports Complex on the Horn.